Thank you. Welcome to the Town of Smiths Falls Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, March the 9th. I'm Councillor Jennifer Miller and I'll be your chairperson this evening. If you pause and reflect, I'll read the land acknowledgement. On March 9th, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and the water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all of our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:02. We've accepted regrets from Councillor Robinson, and we're being joined virtually by CAO Morris and Councillor Brennan. We do have one amendment to the agenda. We have been asked to defer item 9.1. So the agenda has been proposed to be amended. If somebody would make a motion. Moved by Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that the March 9th Committee of the Whole meeting agenda be approved as amended. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof? Councillor Quinn?
Yes, I'm declaring a conflict of interest on the recycling in the downtown area because I have a business there.
Thank you. Mayor Penko?
Yeah, I'd like to declare an item on this conflict on the same item. It's 9.5 in the COW agenda, non-eligible source locations, business recycling, as I own a business in the downtown area that would be affected.
Thank you. And I will also declare that conflict as my employer uses that recycling service. And when we get to that item on the agenda, Councillor McKenna will take over as chair. Okay, we do have minutes up for approval. Moved by Councillor McKenna, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that the minutes of the February 17th, 2026 and February 23rd, 2026 Committee of the Whole meetings be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. We have no delegations. I do understand we have two directors' reports. CAO Morris?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We have two reports on 3 items tonight, and we'll start with Mr. Grenke.
Good evening. Just a couple quick updates from me. Following Council's adoption of our new Heritage Conservation District Plan, staff gave notice as required by the Heritage Acts. We sent notice of approval along with a little bit of explanatory text to all assessed property owners within the boundaries of the district. We've heard back from a number of folks, and we've met with a number of folks for either both businesses owners as well as institutions within the downtown. And we've had some conversations. I've had the opportunity to have a bit of a discussion about what a heritage conservation is and isn't, what it does, what it doesn't do, and I think address some of the concerns out there as it relates to the potential. I think people are concerned about how it might impact people's ability to renovate their properties and so on. So I think these have been good conversations, and we're happy to have them. And certainly through council, if anybody does approach you and has questions about what this might mean to them, we'd certainly encourage anybody to contact staff, and we'd be happy to meet. We are also in dialogue with the Downtown Business Association to get some promotional materials out there as well, and sort of build that knowledge base. This is a new policy, and we're looking forward to working with our partners in the community to implement it. Along those lines as well, just a reminder that the spring intake for the Community Improvement Plan closes on March 31st. We ask that anybody who applies for a CIP, they pre-consult with staff beforehand. We ask that pre-consultation be scheduled as best as possible before March 20th, just to give enough give applicants enough time to assemble their applications and avoid that last weekend panic to assemble paperwork that sometimes has happened in the past. So if anybody who's watching is interested or considering applying for a CIP application this spring, we encourage you to contact our department soon, and we look forward to that. We look forward to that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Manager Grenke? Thank you. CAO Morris?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have two verbal reports this evening. The first relates to some very exciting things going on over at the Heritage House Museum. As council and the public will know, 2026 marks the 200th anniversary of the beginning of the construction of the Rideau Canal. And of course, Smith Falls place is very prominent in the engineering feat. So our staff at Heritage House have been working with Parks Canada staff to move some of the items that used to appear in the Rideau Canal Museum at the former Woods Mill complex. So as we know, the museum, Rideau Canal Museum, shut down before COVID and has not reopened, and it looks like it won't reopen. So some of the items from the museum have been moved over to Heritage House. Two examples are the replica or model of the Rideau King ship that plied the Rideau for many, many years. We also have a model of a working lock. Some of you may remember that from the Rideau Canal Museum these days. At the time, it's been moved over as well. We're working on a couple of other items and maybe some artifacts as well from the museum. So we're going to set up a new exhibit featuring the Rideau Canal. So you can expect that to come very shortly. We are gearing up, staff are gearing up for a busy 2026 at the Heritage House. We have a lot of weddings booked, one in April. So we'll be getting in and cleaning up and making the yard beautiful for that wedding ceremony in April, and many more to come. So I would encourage people to both council and members of the public to check out Heritage House this year. And I'll report back once the Rideau Canal exhibit is in place and ready to go. The other item I wanted to talk briefly about is the Alto high-speed rail project. So Altos are in the midst of their public engagement sessions. They've had several across the province of Ontario and Quebec as well. Mr. Grenke and I were invited to a session last week to talk about the project and get some of our questions answered, and so that was a good engagement. The day after was a public engagement, and I understand lots of people showed up for that. It was held in Perth. So as that's going along, at the same time, we have commissioned a consultant to help us build a business case for a station in Smith Falls. So we're diligently working on that right now, and we expect to present the findings of the work at the next regular Committee of the Whole meeting on March 23rd. So we can expect to have a good discussion about the potential for a station. Council will recall when Alto came on December 8th and presented, they identified the 7 stops that are part of the project, and they also indicated that if a strong business case were made for other stations, that the federal government may consider it. So that's what we're working on right now, and we hope to have a robust discussion about that on the 23rd of March. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll pause and answer any questions that committee may have.
Questions? Councillor McKenna?
Well, thanks for the report, Sir Morrison. Just a fun fact, if I'm not mistaken, Heritage House was designated historical site, not this year, but next year will be 50 years ago, the town of Smith Falls in 1977. It didn't open for a few years after that, but it's 50 years it's been designated a historic site. So just fun. I was saving that one for some trivia night, but
Thank you.
Great timing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have no there were no other directors' reports, were there? CAO Morris?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have no committee of the whole consent report, so we'll jump into priority issues. Again, we've removed 9.1. That item has been deferred. So 9.2 is the dissolution of the Old Home Week Committee with Director Clark.
Good evening, everyone. The purpose of this report is fairly straightforward. With Old Home Week now successfully completed in August of last year, I am before you this evening asking you to formally dissolve the Old Home Week Task Force and release the volunteers back into the wild who served on that committee from their official roles. Council will recall that the Old Home Week Task Force was established several years ago now as a time-limited entity with a very specific mandate to plan and deliver the Old Home Week 2025 celebration. That mandate has now been fully completed. The report is coming forward now as Director Dauber and I had a few more other pressing concerns to attend to in between the end of the Old Home Week and this particular day. So we apologize for the delay. It's actually more my fault than Director Dauber's fault, but I'll throw him under the bus while I'm up here too. So I appreciate that. There is no ongoing operational reason to maintain the committee structure, so that's why I'm asking for dissolution of the same. I wanted to take the opportunity while I'm standing here also to note that the community delivered an extraordinarily successful event. I'm slightly biased, but I think it went off very, very well. Council originally allocated $70,000 over the course of 2 calendar years to support the festival. Building on that foundation, the volunteer committee raised just over $185,000 in sponsorship donations and merchandise sales. It was a really awesome turnout, and our community really showed up for this particular event. The committee directly organized 7 marquee events, including the opening parade, Wellness Fest, the drone show, Float Fest, Nightshirt Parade, the Riverbank Music Festival, and the farewell concert. In addition to these anchor events, approximately 30 additional activities were delivered by service clubs, community groups, town staff, and volunteers across the community. Of course, you were also a part of that with your delightful barbecue. This was not just a festival, it was a community-wide celebration across the municipality, of which I think everyone who participated had a really great time. Again, I'm biased on that, but that's what I'm going to tell everybody. So, attendance indicators demonstrate how significant the event was for us. Approximately 15,000 people attended the opening parade, roughly 2,500 people attended the drone show, and another 2,500 people participated in the farewell concert programming. It's worthy of note that those are geolocated numbers, so there's obviously an uplift because not everybody has a cell phone with them, and that's where the geolocation information is coming from. So there is that's on the low end, it's a conservative estimate of those attendees. Geolocation analytics also indicated around 20,000 unique visitors across monitored activation zones, which is just a fancy way of saying events, with an average dwell time of approximately 146 minutes, meaning that people stayed and spent time in the community. They weren't just passing through. Using standard event impact methodologies, the festival is estimated to have generated just shy of $1 million of additional business activity locally throughout that time period. After all expenses were reconciled, the event concluded with an approximate surplus of $15,440. This reflects very strong financial stewardship by the volunteer committee. As the task force was created by council, so too must it be formally dissolved by council resolution in order to close out its governance structure and release the volunteers from their official roles. For those reasons, staff, myself, are recommending that council formally dissolve the Old Home Week Committee Task Force and receive the attached impact summary. And finally, I'd just like to note that the success of the Old Home Week was due entirely to the dedication of volunteers, sponsors, community partners, and organizations that stepped forward to make the event possible. And it was my absolute pleasure to work with everyone.
Thank you so much, Director Clark. And I know Councillor McKenna would like to say a few words at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the report. It's short. It's hard to capture 2 years of work and 7 days of party into a report, but you've done an admirable job. It was my representation of council and committee was probably one of the highlights of my time on council so far. And certainly the co-chairs, Shelley and Krista, were our guiding light throughout, as well as the committee members did a fantastic job. The community really did respond in a wonderful, wonderful way. The only issue I had with your report, there was an omission. It says the success of the Old Home Week is directly attributable to the dedication of the volunteer committee members, community sponsors, and donors. It would be not possible without your leadership, Director Clark, the police service, public works, finance department, your whole team. It never would have happened without it. And then finally, I certainly want to acknowledge all of our community groups, Lions and the Rotary, and the faith-based groups and the volunteers. Just they stepped up. The week was full and rich, and I really wish the next Old Home Week committee the best. If they can match that, it would be wonderful, and I'll be watching from someplace. So thank you again.
Well said. Other comments, Mayor Panko?
Yeah, I can't really say more than what Peter said. It was obviously an outstanding event, and I think leadership led the way. And we know that anything that happens requires leadership to get there, and the co-chairs, but also the committee members, the volunteers. And the feedback I had that week from people from all over, people who maybe grew up here, moved away, and just one of the positives about the community, but just how much they enjoyed the week. And recognizing the numbers, I think with the drone show and his 2,500, I would probably triple that with the kids that were there as well. It's hard to gauge, but I know when the lights come on, the show was over, there wasn't a square meter of grass anywhere in that park that wasn't occupied by somebody. So really, I guess the creativity to come up with the various events, the partnerships, the commitment by so many people in the community to make sure it happened. And I'm glad Peter mentioned town staff, especially your team, because it would not have happened the way it had without that. And finally, what a beautiful week weather-wise. There wasn't a single glitch, I don't think, other than being maybe a little bit too warm at times, but that was during Float Fest, so everyone could get in the water anyway. So just gratitude to everyone involved in making this happen. And 25 years from now, they'll have a hard time trying to beat what happened here. And I'd be interested to see, hopefully I'm still around at that point in time to experience it, but you think of how much our world has evolved since 2000, what's it going to be like in another 25 years? So anyway, thanks to everyone who involved and the community for showing up.
Councillor McKenna?
And just to remind the public that someone will be opening the box, the
Time capsule.
time capsule in 25 years. Have we sealed it up yet?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. So,
Waiting for warmer weather.
okay. But there is a wonderful time capsule. So,
And I would just like to recognize that we have some of the volunteers here today. And I know we're a small crowd, but would you mind just standing so we can just acknowledge your work? Thank you for being here. And thanks for all your Thank you, Director Clark.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.3, draft renovictions bylaw for Smith Falls. Mayor Panko, you're leading our conversation on that.
Yes, thank you. Smith Falls Equity for All Committee has delved into numerous societal issues in our time. Of course, this committee emerged from the Racism Prevention Task Force we had last term. And our focus really has been on housing, food security, poverty reduction, and inclusivity. And to that effect, we had heard delegations from Hamilton and London last year, municipalities, their journey to the creation of anti-renoviction bylaw. And what precipitated this really was the feedback we were hearing from the community from people who have been impacted. So between 2017 and 2022, Hamilton had experienced a 983% increase in N13 notices being issued to tenants by landlords. A N13 is a notice by a landlord to end a tenancy because the landlord wants to demolish or repair a rental unit or convert it to another use. So a landlord who wishes to end a tenancy for these purposes must seek a ruling from the landlord and tenant board actually to proceed with an eviction. But over my last 2 terms as mayor, I've met dozens of people who have received an N13. And in many instances, the landlord has provided the N13 with the expectation that the tenant move out. And in some cases, the landlord has aggressively pressured tenants to move out without involving the tribunal. In those cases, my first action is to advise the tenant that the N13 is not an eviction notice. And sometimes people take some time for them to understand that's not an eviction notice and that they do not need to move out unless they receive direction from the landlord and tenant board. My second action is always to put them in touch with the legal clinic in Perth, who can represent them if the landlord follows through to seek a hearing. So once represented, the landlord truly needs the tenant to vacate the premises to complete necessary renovations. The tenant will be accommodated elsewhere. will then be allowed to return to their home after renovations are complete, paying the same level of rent. Now, in most cases I'm familiar with, once faced with opposition, armed with legal representation, the landlord backs down and the tenant continues to occupy the home. Now, although there are times the unit needs to be vacated to allow necessary renovations, some landlords issue N13s open to the tenant. Usually a long-standing tenant paying below market rent leaves, and the landlord has a vacant unit he or she can usually double the rent on. And I've seen the tactic used numerous times by primarily out-of-town landlords who, in my opinion, are seeking an opportunity to increase their revenue and frequently with buildings they have recently purchased. And I've also heard from many of our citizens who had received N13s and moved out because the landlord simply told them that's what they need to do. So over 45% of our citizens rent their home, and although many are in newer buildings and paying market rent, a significant portion, many lower income, are lifelong tenants who have spent several years, even decades in their homes. They've enjoyed the protections of rent control, and for most of their tenure have never faced the risk of losing their home. So the staggering rise in rental rates in recent years, and landlords looking to profit from what's called the BRRRR, buy, renovate, rent at market rates, refinance, and repeat method, have invested in their community. However, some have added the E into the process, meaning buy, evict, renovate, rent at market rates, refinance, and repeat. So for a moment, let's just put ourselves in the shoes of our citizens. Imagine waking up one day, your landlord knocks at the door, hands you the N13, tells you to move out, or he or she needs to renovate your apartment. Our home is our safe space. It's where we spend most of our time. It's a big source for security and enjoyment. It's our network. So not only does someone face a prospect of losing the home they've enjoyed for decades, in many cases, they face a prospect of not just finding a new home, but the insecurity of either having to pay more for the rent than they've been previously budgeting for, or consider a scenario where they will have to share space with other individuals or families, or even become homeless. And it may mean moving neighborhoods, changing to their kids' bus routes, network of friends, navigating to move and trying to figure out how they'll have enough money left over for groceries when new rent is consuming a larger portion of the modest budget. So no wonder food bank usage is up over 250% in the past 6 years. So it's these factors which have led councils in Hamilton, Toronto, London, Kitchener, Guelph, and perhaps others to deliver a rent eviction bylaw with many others, including Oshawa, Ottawa, St. Catharines, Cornwall, and more who are considering doing so. So a draft bylaw on today's agenda was drafted for and supported by the Smiths Falls Equity for All Committee, was advanced to committee of the whole for consideration. So there are many positives in bringing such a bylaw into force, especially for the protection of our tenant citizens. There's also the potential for unintended consequences, including landlords avoiding necessary renovations in order to avoid the process. So my hope and my recommendation today is that we direct staff to draft a report regarding the proposed draft bylaw, including insights from municipalities who have led the way on this, and analysis into staffing resources required to manage and enforce the bylaw, and appropriate fee structure and other considerations. And I have no doubt that a rent eviction bylaw would provide a necessary level of security and protection that our citizens, especially our most vulnerable ones, which really benefit from. I want to ensure that we fully consider the potential unintended consequences along with the merits of such a program. And at that, I'm going to take questions, Madam Chair.
Any questions or comments for Mayor Panko? Councillor McKenna?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Your Worship, for bringing this forward from our committee. We had the opportunity to hear firsthand from the at least two communities, and it was from the staff who administer the program. And after they've adopted it, there's very little uptake at that point. It was still relatively new. However, I do support the mayor's suggestion that we ask staff to bring back a detailed report on this. And if the committee wishes, I think, and we get that far, certainly I'd like to hear what the public thinks about any such report, but we would have that discussion at a future date. I guess it would, yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions? I would you're getting lots of thumbs up, and I would add to that. And I just would like to say thank you to the Equity for All Committee for bringing this issue forward. And I know it's a lot of work to do all of that research, so appreciate that. And look forward to the staff report on that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Priority issue 9.4 with Director Clark is about establishment of a steering committee for a regional recreational facility project.
Good evening. I am here back again with a report seeking Council's direction on the establishment of a steering committee for the Regional Recreation Facility Project. Of course, as we may recall, this is the project that we're hoping to develop out of the Youth Arena Feasibility Study. The goal is to create a structured governance forum that allows regional partners and user groups to provide strategic input and guidance as the project advances. As Council knows, this project is envisioned as a shared regional asset that will provide long-term recreational, social, and economic benefits for the broader catchment area. As discussions with partner municipalities and user groups begin and eventually evolve, establishing a formal steering committee helps ensure that the project moves forward in a collaborative and transparent way. The steering committee would provide high-level strategic advice on issues such as governance models, ownership structure, regional funding and equity principles, design intent, and overall project direction, among other things. It is important to emphasize that this committee is advisory only. Operational control, procurement, budgeting, and staffing decisions would remain with the Town of Smiths Falls as the project lead. And of course, decisions are subject to council approval. Engaging partners and stakeholders at this stage will allow us to ensure that we are proceeding inclusively, cautiously, and with transparency. The proposed steering committee would consist of 12 voting members representing a balance of municipal leadership and key users, 3 from this particular council chaired by the mayor, 5 representatives from partner municipalities, and 4 representatives from user groups, a mix of adult and young people, as well as, let me rephrase that, a mix of adult and youth user groups, ideally adults, not young people at the table potentially, and looking at ice and non-ice sports. Director of Community Services, currently me, would participate as a non-voting staff support. While we are approaching an election this year, the steering committee is intended to undertake preparatory work rather than make final decisions. Major infrastructure projects often span multiple councils, and beginning the conversation now helps build relationships with regional partners and develop options that the next council can consider. Ultimately, all major decisions remain with council, and a future council would retain full authority to adjust or dissolve the committee if it so chooses. A committee provides a consistent forum for dialogue and collaboration between municipalities and user groups. It helps ensure political alignment across the region as we move forward with what will likely be a very significant capital project for our area. And we are demonstrating regional collaboration and governance, which can strengthen the town's position when pursuing provincial, federal, and philanthropic funding opportunities. The report before you outlines 3 possible approaches. First is establish a formal steering committee, which is the recommended option. The second is proceed without a committee, relying on ad hoc consultation, or third, create an informal advisory group. The latter 2 options are not recommended because they may limit transparency, weaken regional engagement, and reduce the clarity of governance as the project develops. As such, staff are recommending that council approve the establishment of the steering committee and appoint 3 members of Smiths Falls Council to serve on the committee. The structure provides a balanced way to invite regional collaboration while ensuring that the Town of Smiths Falls continues to lead and steward the project responsibly. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments, volunteers? Mayor Hankup?
Sure. Thanks, Director Clark. And absolutely, we need engagement, not just one time, but ongoing engagement with the partners as we work towards, a solution here and an eventual plan. I like the structure. I agree. We need to have large representation. This is in our community. We will be the owner, but we also need to ensure that our municipal partners, whom all use facility collectively more than we do, more than our citizens do, need a voice at the table. We've had some conversations with them in the last year, and they certainly expect an opportunity to be part of this process. I think this reflects that intent. And I know it's a longer journey to get to where we need to be, but I like the milestones you've sort of got set through here, and I fully support this and volunteer to be part of it.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a great first step towards this dream, and I love the volunteer. I'm just wondering with the representation, and I know it's a big committee, but one representative from a non-hockey sport. I know there's a lot of competition for gym use and people in different areas. So I wonder if we might add one more from a non-hockey sport. I know the pickleballers are very enthusiastic. There's basketball and badminton and everything else, and everyone. It is the big major thing here is the field house that we hopefully will be constructing. So I know it's a big committee, but maybe one more from the non-hockey side might be good.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire?
Thanks. Will the meetings be recorded or posted online, or what's the format for that side of it?
Through the chair, that's a great question. We certainly could make that happen.
Thank you. Councillor McKenna?
Yeah, I'd like to think that the meetings are open to the public. I'd hate to think that they wouldn't be. Do you have a timeline in mind how long I didn't see it in there, how long the committee would be meeting for?
If I may, my mother says I'm very impatient, so I'd like it to happen right away, but I'm also learning patience, so it's to be determined. I think part of it would be dependent on how, what the committee decides, whether our partners are on board. It'll look very different with or without partner participation. So I think that's an open-ended question. I would like to potentially consider revisiting in a year, seeing where we're at. I think there's an opportunity to come back to council and refashion if we need to, and ebb and flow a little bit as we need to.
You're well aware that there's an election in between that time. And
Yes.
so your goal wasn't to have this wrapped up?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's fine. I support it. And I'm pleased that the mayor and Councillor Brennan have put their hand up so far. The town of Perth is embarking on a regional recreation facility master plan, so to speak, feasibility study. I think it would be interesting to make them aware of this and to have them at least monitor our committee. They could sit in. I'm not suggesting they're a formal participant, but they're 20 minutes down the road doing something very similar. If we could learn from each other, I would be, I think if we reached out to them, I think it would, I don't know what opportunities, if any, but it would be a shame not to explore it.
Certainly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn?
Thank you very much for this. I think this sounds really interesting, and bringing all these people to the same table to talk, because everyone has ideas and opinions, and if we talk, then we can find solutions for issues. I think that is very, very important. And I also I like the idea Councillor Brennan came up with, that getting everyone there, that all the users there, so they can express their opinions. This is how this is going to happen, is by putting it all together in this way where people are there and you're constructing from that. So thank you. Thumbs up.
Thank you. So you have full support. It looks like we have 2 out of your 3 council members committed, and maybe we just need a few days to think about that. And Councillor Robinson is away. Perhaps he's interested as well. So is that okay if we
Absolutely.
get back to you on the third body?
Sounds good. As an added bonus, you get to spend time with me. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. And I will, just to be clear, I'll update the terms of reference to add that additional non-ice sport individual. And then
Appreciate that.
back. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just a reminder, as you're discussing who will volunteer, we also need an alternate. So we'll actually need 4 people to put their hand up to volunteer.
Thank you. More food for thought.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving into 9.5. 3 of us have a conflict of interest. So Councillor Quinn, Mayor Panko, and myself will step out, and Councillor McKenna will take the reins.
All right, thank you very much. CEO Morris, it says Director McMunn would be leading this conversation. What's your plan?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Mr. McMunn is away this week, so I'm going to fill in for him
Okay.
as best I
Thank you.
can. So the genesis of this report is resides in the changes to Blue Box Recycling, and perhaps just for listeners at home, I'll provide a brief explanation. So since the early 1990s, we've been delivering Blue Box services to the communities throughout Ontario. And all that changed on January 1st of this year. The program was expanded, but most importantly, the program was transitioned to a producer pay or producer responsibility program. And so what that means is that municipalities are no longer financially responsible for Blue Box collection, processing, shipping, marketing, all of the elements of a recycling program. But if we go back in time, when the Blue Box program started, it was meant to be for residential materials. And Smiths Falls, like virtually every town or city in the province, extended service to a business that might be on the ground floor of a downtown with a residential apartment on upper levels. It was very difficult to distinguish between the commercial recycling that ended up in the Blue Box and the residential. And in many cases, it was the same type of material. At that point, the municipalities in Ontario provided the service. Under the new regime, the province has been very clear that it's only for residential materials. And so consequently, they will not, their contractors that are collecting will not pick up from a commercial institutional or industrial generator of recyclables. So we've gone on record to oppose that. We believe it's, a Pepsi can is a Pepsi can. It doesn't matter who drank the Pepsi. The can is still recyclable, and the producer should be responsible for it. So I think we're getting traction, but there's a lot more work to do. In the meantime, it is excluded. The producers will not pay to pick it up. So what staff brought to council last August was a recommendation to provide a supplemental service to the businesses on a cost recovery basis. So we set about to do that. We engaged with GIM, our previous service provider, came up with a route for 220 businesses that historically received Blue Box collection. So we started January 1st. We reached out through both email and hand-delivered letters saying, here's the new program. Here's the cost. It was about $27 a month. Would have represented full cost recovery if all of the 220 businesses had signed up. What we found as of the end of February, we had a modest take-up rate, and it was about 32% of those that responded wanted to opt in. So, but only 111 businesses responded out of 220, so roughly half. But we felt at that point there just wasn't enough interest to justify the program on the basis of full cost recovery. So the recommendation at this point is to discontinue the service owing to lack of response. So that does strand those that want to opt in. There may be opportunities to provide private collection, perhaps with GIM, perhaps with others. And that's something I think staff could help facilitate. But we're bringing this forward this evening just to let you know that we're a long way from full cost recovery on this program. And we believe now would be the time to make a change. So you might ask, what are other communities doing? So we reached out to, I think it was 8 municipalities in Eastern Ontario. And what we discovered on a quick kind of poll was that Carleton Place and Kingston are not providing the service. They did not start it on January 1st. So their business community are providing their own options or their own solution to recycling collection. The other ones we checked with include Perth, Brockville, Cornwall, Renfrew, and Almont. They're all providing a similar dedicated service, much like we're doing today. And for most of them, they've given it a 1-year trial some of them at no cost to the user, others have imposed a fee, much like we had proposed to do. So there's a mixed approach. We're not clear on what those communities are going to do after a year, whether they'll continue it or not. But they've given a 1-year period to do that. So with that in full view, I'll pause and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
From council, committee, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I really struggle with this, and I think the province has made a mistake in terms of what they've done in excluding businesses. So the other worry I would have is if we do this now and leave everyone sort of on their own to take care of their own recycling, we're going to get a lot more recycling in the landfill. And so I would support the town continuing to pay for this, like some of the other municipalities are doing for a year. And I'm pleased that we're advocating for a change in this policy. But if you have a mom and pop shop, and I've read stories, and I think it was in London or someplace, where the recycling is piling up, businesses are throwing stuff in the garbage that shouldn't have to be thrown in the garbage. So the other part of it is the report we got in December is making big changes to our waste management. I'm talking about once every 2 weeks, an organics program, clear bags, and that sort of thing. So I would prefer, or I would urge us to continue on what we're doing for a year. I think this is going to be an election issue, or should be, because people, the average person, taxpayer, expects certain things from their municipality, i.e. roads being plowed, streets being maintained, and garbage picked up. It's a core service, so major change like that needs to go to the public. And I think for this year, I think we should continue on what we're doing, and then have a discussion after that.
Thank you, Councillor Brennan. So you're talking about from January till next December 31st, continuing and then review it at that time.
Correct.
Okay. Councillor McGuire.
Thank you. CEO Morris, I'm wondering, I just want a clarification on this, because my understanding is that recycling has always been cost covered by the province. Now it's shifting from the province covering it to the producers covering it, but they've taken the businesses out of the arrangement. So like, this is something that was never funded through Smith Falls taxes before.
Through the chair, actually, it was funded through property taxes. The province provided a degree of subsidy, but it was a fraction of the total cost.
Was it not 80% or in that ballpark at a previous meeting?
I don't think it was ever 80%. They provided a subsidy. It was based on tonnage, but it was a small amount for sure. So our budget was north of $220,000 for recycling pickup before we transitioned in July of 2024. We were the first wave of municipalities to transition. So it's been off of largely off our tax base since 2024. January 1st of this year is when all municipalities came on board, and the producer funding kicked in at the full rate.
Thanks, through the chair. So I guess the good thing is we're spending less than we would be otherwise. But when it comes to the collection, like the recycled materials, do we know how much of them are actually being recycled, how much end up in landfill, or what kind of diversion rates come out of our recycling program?
We do. I don't know from memory, but it was in the waste management strategy report that we brought forward. So we could dig that out and have a look at it. I think our numbers, the validity of those numbers depends on how you measure it. So we include, blue box recyclable materials from 220 businesses. but we don't typically collect their garbage. So it's an elusive number to come up with a diversion rate. But our diversion rate, I think, was about 32%, if memory serves.
So about 32% of collected materials are actually recyclable,
Of the 32% of the total waste stream.
diverted. Okay, I guess the thing is out of what we're actually collecting at the curb, it's hard to know what the value of that recycled material is. I'm assuming stuff like pop cans and metals have a high value, but then when it comes to plastics and papers, there's a lot of information out there where it can be packaged and landfilled or sent somewhere it shouldn't be sent. So, if we had a sense of what the value of that recycled goods was, then it would be easier to support spending the money. And I guess the second point of it is like when I look at the town of Smith Falls as us as a corporation, my understanding is we don't do any recycling, any diversion. So, there must be a reason for that, and there must be a business case of why that's the situation. And if that's what's advantageous for us as a corporation, what's the advantage of continuing to provide this service at a loss for businesses? And I don't have a good answer to that in my head, and it's hard to. This kind of situation is why it's nice to have a full horseshoe. You appreciate why there's so many people around the table for normal debates, because I'm not. I don't have a good, strong opinion on this right now.
Do you want
I
to
think what I could. Sorry, what I could say, Mr. Chair, is that the nature. I mean, we had a certain economy of scale when we collected all blue boxes with the same vehicle. We go down the street and we pick up whether it was a small business or a household, but there was a certain density to the route, so it made sense. Unfortunately, this is a much smaller route with only 220 stops. So the cost per ton or cost per collection is higher than it would have been, in the days when we incorporated it into the route. So we're paying. There's a premium to provide this service. You raise a good point about the value of the materials. They are commodities. They go up and down. It's a good question. I'm not sure what the current rate of the basket of goods is or the current value, but there is no offsetting revenue within the contract we have. So we're getting zero credit for the value of the materials. I mean, that's something we could explore with Glenview Iron and Metal, but even if there was an offsetting revenue, it would be marginal.
Councillor Brennan?
Just sort of a procedural point. There's three of us discussing this, and I see this is coming up in the council meeting to follow as that is not really quorum. So should this be the council meeting items be deferred?
I'll just ask the clerk to clarify that. I had the same question, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So by virtue of losing quorum because of declarations, we don't in fact lose quorum when people declare, but we do have to have a minimum of 2 people. And if the council decides tonight to defer the item, that can certainly happen. We would just remove those items from the council agenda under amendments to the agenda.
I would prefer to defer it, even if we only had 4, would be more of because we're missing 1. So.
Thank you. We'll make that decision shortly. Councillor McGuire?
I guess thinking about this, I had the privilege of attending the DBA's annual general meeting a few weeks ago, and I really appreciated that Director McMunn came and gave a great presentation on the program and had a great dialogue with the members of the board that were there. And I didn't see a lot of enthusiasm for the program, and I didn't see a lot of, this message was communicated, and it's not that our inboxes have been flooded with messages that it wouldn't continue. So I guess my preference would be if we continued it for another 4 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever is reasonable, send out the notice that it's ending. If we get feedback from that notice that this is poorly received, then we can revisit it. But right now I'm not, from the initial intake of only 50% and then a fraction of that signing up for it, I'm not seeing I'm not getting a lot of feedback on it. So it's telling me that it's not a critical service that we're providing. And if we can save $70,000, it's not insignificant.
Okay, so I like Councillor Brennan's point that it would be at least good to have Councillor Robinson here for one more kick at this. So I would suggest that as well. And I know there's no meeting next week, so it would be our next cow,
23rd.
the 23rd. Assuming we could get 4 people, we could put it back on the agenda. My inclination is and maybe Councillor Brennan, you could, what would you hope to learn between now and December that we don't know right now?
Well, I'm interested. I was interested to hear Councillor McGuire's comments about the DBA, but I would like to have some sort of written comment from them and from the Chamber of Commerce. I know that I've heard in past from businesses that they pay taxes as well. So if you're a homeowner, you're paying taxes, you get services, including recycling and garbage and all the rest of it. And the businesses pay a good rate of tax as well. So they should expect some service from the community as well. So that would be my point. And at 1 year, I think it follows a couple of the other municipalities that have said, okay, we're going to take it for a year. As CEO Morris mentioned, there's advocacy, hopefully on the AMO level, to make a change with this policy from the provincial government. So maybe something will happen in the meantime there. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire, are you comfortable deferring to Councillor Robinson's here on the 23rd? Or
I don't know. It's I don't know if it's that consequential. I guess I'd be okay deferring with. Had the businesses been notified of this report, and have they been given notice that council's considering canceling it? And if they haven't, then I'd like to see that move forward while we defer it. And then in 2 weeks, we'll know if we get a big string of emails back, we'll know it's been poorly received. But another point that came up at the DBA meeting was that a lot of the businesses that have large volumes already have private contracts because the volumes they create is too much for the municipal service. So there already are quite a few businesses, especially retail businesses, that have independent contracts.
CEO Morris, do you want to comment on how the businesses have been? I think you talked about a survey or a communicate that out to the businesses.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, we have not indicated that we're considering ending it. I believe Mr. McMunn in his presentation to the DBA said that the uptake was very, very modest and the program is likely at risk based on the expectation that it be full cost recovery. But I don't think, formal notification was sent that we're considering canceling it. So we could take the intervening 2 weeks and kind of explore that a little bit and indicate that the program could be in jeopardy and maybe it will inspire more to sign up. So we could do that and come back in 2 weeks with an update on the uptake at that point.
Yeah, and we would have Councillor Robinson here as well. So that'll be our advice for tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just let our colleagues come back in. And I'll turn the chair back over to Chair Miller.
Thank you, Councillor McKenna. That ends our priority issues. Do we have any committee, board, and external organization updates? Okay, so we are going to move into an in-camera session about proposed acquisition disposition of land. So I'm looking for someone to make a motion. Councillor McGuire, seconded by Councillor McKenna, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls, as provided in Section 2392C of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, moved into a closed meeting at 5:55 p.m. to discuss a litigation matter. All in favor? Carried. We'll be back shortly, folks. Thank you. We're returning from our in-camera session. Thank you for your patience. We gave staff direction about a proposed acquisition or disposition of land. So we have one correspondence item about the dedicated passenger rail train track. Any direction on that, Council, or any comments or questions, Councillor McKenna?
I'm just thinking that we receive it as information, but if others have other ideas, I'm open to that.
I'm just waiting for the screens to come back on in case CAO Morse or Councillor Brennan. They're there.
Thank you. We've just started on correspondence. Councillor Brennan?
Oh, no, I'm here. Just
Oh, thank you for being here.
information is fine with me, as Councilor McKenna said.
Okay. Nodding heads. We'll receive that for information. Thank you. We have no notice of motions, so we need a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Quinn, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that the committee adjourn its proceedings at
6:29.
6:29 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. All in favor? Carried.
Brief recess. Welcome back, everyone. This meeting of Smith Falls Town Council for Monday, March 9th, 2026. On March 9th, 2026, we acknowledge the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might be here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution to the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and be mindful of generations to come. Call the meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Approval for the agenda is with Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that we approve the agenda without item 9.2 and 10.1.
Oh, sorry. I should say the motion, but the agenda has been amended to remove items 9.1, 9.2, not 10.1, 10.3, 10.4. That's a posted agenda. We're just looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended then.
Okay, so the motion to approve, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McKenna to approve the agenda as amended.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest and a conflict of interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, we have no minutes to approve. Any council reports? I have no updates myself, but I do have a number of proclamations. So everyone just take a little bit of a break and I will have to carry the ball from here. Okay, Be a Donor Month, April 2026, and Green Shirt Day, April 7th, 2026. Whereas April is Be a Donor Month in Ontario, and April 7th is Green Shirt Day across Canada, a day inspired by the passing of the Humboldt Broncos defenseman Logan Bollet, who in 2018, who saved 6 lives through organ donation following the bus crash in which 15 of his teammates also lost their lives. Whereas a goal during Be a Donor Month is to inspire those who have not yet registered consent for organ and tissue donation, whereas on average 1,400 people in Ontario are waiting for life-saving organ transplant, and every 3 days someone will die waiting for an organ transplant. Whereas in 2025, 362 deceased organ donors gave the gift of life, 1,088 deceased donor organ transplants were performed in Ontario, and 2,051 tissue donors enhanced the lives of thousands. Whereas everyone has the potential to be a donor and or tissue donor, organ and or tissue donor, regardless of age or health. One organ donor can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of up to 75 others through tissue donation. Whereas 90% of Ontarians support organ and tissue donation, yet only 1 in 3, 35% of eligible Ontarians have registered their consent to donate. Whereas families almost always consent to donation when there's evidence that a loved one registered their decision to donate, but in the absence of a registered donation decision, families consent only half the time. Whereas the Transplant Advocate Association exists in our region to provide information and support to both pre- and post-organ and tissue recipients, donors, and their families, and to create awareness amongst the general public about organ and tissue donation and transplantation. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Sean Panko, hereby proclaim the entire month of April as Be a Donor Month, and April 7th as Green Shirt Day in the town of Smith Falls, and I encourage all citizens to learn more about donor and tissue donation and transplantation, and consider pledging their support to Be a Donor Month by registering to be a donor at beadonor.ca. And second proclamation is International Day of the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, March 21st, 2026. Whereas March 21st is the International Day of the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which is a day dedicated to acknowledging, challenging, and eliminating racism. Whereas the rights to equality and non-discrimination are cornerstones of human rights law, as in Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and whereas racial discrimination is a universal issue that divides communities and threatens the political, social, economic, and cultural foundations on which communities are built. Whereas every day, each and every one of us can stand up against racial prejudice, hatred, and intolerant attitudes. And therefore, I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the town of Smith Falls, do hereby proclaim March 21st, 2026, International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination in the town of Smith Falls. And the third proclamation is Parkinson's Awareness Month, which Parkinson's is a lifelong, incurable brain disease. and no two experiences are alike. Whereas in Canada alone, more than 100,000 people live with Parkinson's. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of Smiths Falls, do hereby declare April as Parkinson's Awareness Month and April 11th as Parkinson's Awareness Day in the town of Smiths Falls. And further, the month of April be a time dedicated to raising awareness and to show our support for Canadians who live with Parkinson's disease and their families and caregivers. Purple Day, internationally recognized day for epilepsy awareness. Whereas Purple Day, and staff was good enough to put this in purple type, purple print, whereas Purple Day for epilepsy was founded in 2008 by 9-year-old Cassidy Megan of Nova Scotia, as she was motivated by her own struggles with epilepsy. Whereas Cassidy started Purple Day for epilepsy in an effort to educate others about the disorder and remind those living with seizures that they're not alone. Whereas epilepsy is one of the most common neurological disorders, affecting approximately 1 in 100 people in Canada and 50 million people worldwide. Whereas Purple Day will help epilepsy organizations in Canada and around the world increase awareness, reduce stigma, and empower individuals living with epilepsy to take action in their communities. Whereas Purple Day reminds everyone that people living with epilepsy need understanding and acceptance and deserve comprehensive care and access to innovative treatment options to effectively manage their disease. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the town of Smiths Falls, do hereby proclaim March 26, 2026 as Purple Day in the town of Smiths Falls and encourage our citizens to wear purple to support those living with epilepsy and ask all to make an effort to learn more about epilepsy and fight the stigma. And the final proclamation is World Autism Day, April 2nd, 2026. Whereas World Autism Day takes place to highlight the need to help improve the quality of life for those with autism so they can lead full and meaningful lives as an integral part of society. Whereas autism is mainly characterized by its unique social interactions, non-standard ways of learning, keen interest in specific subjects, inclination to routines, challenges in typical communications, and particular ways of processing sensory information. Whereas April 2nd is also about recognition and sharing of stories to celebrate the successes of autistic people. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the town of Smiths Falls, do hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2026 as World Autism Day in the town of Smiths Falls. And to my granddaughter, Layla, this is for you. Okay, moving ahead with our agenda, we've deferred virtually every item with the exception of 10.2, which is with Councillor McKenna.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls formally dissolve the Old Home Week Committee Task Force as per bylaw 10478-2023, thereby concluding its mandate and releasing all appointed volunteers from their roles, and that Council receive Appendix A to report 2026-036 entitled Old Home Week, a Community Celebration and its Impact as Information.
Thank you. And further discussion, Councillor McKenna.
Well, as you heard earlier from Director Clark, it was last August was a wonderful week of celebration for our community far and wide. It was over 2 years in the making, and it couldn't have happened without hundreds of volunteers, the generous businesses who donated money to make it happen, the town seed money that really helped get it going, and of course the hardworking town staff from police, community services, public works, finance. I missed any departments.
All departments, pretty much.
All the departments were involved, and they really made it happen. It was a wonderful event. Tens of thousands of people attended, and there's an estimated that over $1 million of revenue was generated or people spent in our community over a week or 10 days. So it's just great, and I look forward to the next one in 25 years.
Great, thank you. Any further comments? Moved by Councillor McKenna, seconded by Councillor Miller, that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Smiths Falls formally dissolve the Old Home Week Committee Task Force as per bylaw 8-2023, thereby concluding its mandate and releasing all appointed volunteers from their roles. And the council receive Appendix A to report 2026-036 entitled Old Home Week, a Community Celebration and its Impact as Information. All in favor? That's carried. And that is it for our business. Unless anybody has any inquiries or announcements or trivia or? No? Councillor Miller, you have the motion for adjournment.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McGuire that this council adjourn its proceedings at 6:44 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor McGuire. This council adjourns proceedings at 6:44 p.m. and stands to adjourn to the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.